At 35 miles per hour, the USS Carl Vinson was racing through 50-knot winds off Alaska in January 1987. The flight deck was covered in ice, waves were towering over the ship, and an F-14 Tomcat was dangerously close to the edge. The crew had a choice: slow down and risk mission failure, or maintain speed and face the deadly consequences. They chose speed, and what happened next shows exactly how aircraft carrier crews face nature's most terrifying challenge. But this wasn't the worst they've encountered. In December 1944, 3 destroyers were completely destroyed when Admiral Halsey's fleet maintained high speed through a massive typhoon. The USS Hull, USS Spence, and USS Monaghan all capsized, taking nearly every soul aboard down with them. The aircraft carriers survived, but only because their crews knew exactly how to handle deadly waves at full speed. Just 2 years ago, on November 29, 2022, a single rogue wave killed a passenger and injured 4 others on the Viking Polaris. That ship was only doing 15 miles per hour. Now imagine what happens when a 100,000-ton aircraft carrier hits a wave like that at over 30 miles per hour with 5,000 crew members aboard. Today, you're going to discover exactly how these brave crews face this life-or-death challenge every single day. The techniques they use, the split-second decisions they make, and the incredible teamwork that keeps these floating cities alive when nature unleashes its fury at high speed. If you're proud of our brave naval forces who face these dangers at full speed to protect our freedom, type "proud" in the comments. The high-speed dilemma: why slowing down isn't always an option. Here's what most people don't understand about aircraft carrier operations. These ships can't just slow down when big waves appear. When you're defending America's interests or responding to a crisis, mission speed is everything. The USS Nimitz proved this during Operation Desert Storm, maintaining over 30 knots while launching combat missions despite facing 25-foot seas in the Persian Gulf. Captain Mike Abrashoff, former commanding officer of USS Benfold, explained the brutal reality. In combat operations, you don't have the luxury of waiting for perfect weather. The enemy doesn't care if there's a storm. This means aircraft carrier crews must master the art of high-speed, heavy-weather operations even when their lives depend on it. At maximum speed, these nuclear-powered giants move at over 35 miles per hour. That might not sound fast until you realize that hitting a 60-foot wave at that speed generates the same impact force as a high-speed car crash, except the car weighs 100,000 tons and carries enough firepower to level a city. The crew's first challenge happens on the bridge, where the officer of the deck must make constant speed and heading adjustments. Chief Petty Officer Martinez, who served 20 years on carriers, describes it. You're reading the wave patterns ahead, calculating impact timing, and adjusting speed in real time. Too fast and you'll bury the bow. Too slow and you lose steering control. The bridge team, masters of split-second decisions. When massive waves threaten a high-speed carrier, everything depends on the bridge team's coordination. The quartermaster tracks wave height and frequency using radar, calling out readings every 30 seconds. The helmsman maintains precise steering control, often fighting waves that want to throw the ship off course. The officer of the deck coordinates everything, making life-or-death decisions in seconds. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen, who navigated the USS George Washington through a North Atlantic storm in 2019, explains the process. We were doing 28 knots when we encountered 45-foot waves. Every wave impact felt like hitting a concrete wall. The key is reading the wave sets. You speed up for the smaller ones and reduce power just before the big ones hit. This technique, called wave riding, requires incredible skill. The bridge team uses visual cues, radar data, and even the ship's motion to predict what's coming next. They're literally surfing through deadly waters at highway speeds, with thousands of lives depending on their decisions. But here's where it gets really dangerous. Modern aircraft carriers are designed to cut through waves, not ride over them. At high speed, the knife-like bow slices into wave faces, sending tons of green water cascading over the flight deck. The crew must secure everything in seconds because even a loose tool becomes a deadly projectile when hit by that much water. Flight deck heroes, landing aircraft in a hurricane. Now comes the most dangerous part, trying to land aircraft when the ship is doing 30 knots through massive waves. The flight deck crew faces a nightmare scenario, a moving target that's pitching up and down 30 feet while racing through the ocean at full speed. Senior Chief Aviation Boatswain's Mate Rodriguez has guided over 2,000 aircraft landings in rough seas. He describes the challenge: when we're at speed in heavy weather, the deck motion is violent and unpredictable. 1 second you're 20 feet below normal, the next you're 30 feet above. Pilots have less than 3 seconds to adjust. The landing signal officers, or LSOs, are the real heroes here. These highly trained specialists stand on a platform just feet from where 40,000-pound fighter jets slam onto the deck at 150 miles per hour. In rough seas at high speed, they're risking their lives every single time an aircraft approaches. Petty Officer First Class Thompson, an LSO on the USS Ronald Reagan, explains their technique. We use something called deck motion compensation. We're constantly calculating where the deck will be when the aircraft touches down, not where it is now. At high speed, everything happens faster, so our margin for error drops to almost zero. The most terrifying moment comes when the deck is rising fast just as an aircraft touches down. The combined speed of the ship moving through waves and the aircraft's descent can create impact forces that would destroy smaller vessels. Only the incredible skill of these deck crews and the robust engineering of these ships makes survival possible. Engine room warriors, keeping power. When it matters most deep in the ship's hull, another battle is raging. The nuclear reactor operators and engineering crews must maintain full power even when massive wave impacts shake the entire ship. These sailors work in spaces that feel every single wave hit amplified, while managing systems that could power a small city. Chief Petty Officer Williams spent 15 years in carrier engine rooms and describes high-speed, heavy weather operations. When we're doing 30-plus knots through big waves, the whole ship flexes. You can actually see the hull moving, but we have to keep those reactors running at full power no matter what. The engineering challenge is incredible. Nuclear reactors need precise control to maintain steady power output. When the ship is being pounded by waves at high speed, reactor operators must constantly adjust control rods and coolant flow to compensate for the ship's motion. One mistake could shut down the entire propulsion system, leaving the ship helpless in deadly seas. Steam catapult operators face their own nightmare. These systems use superheated steam to launch 40,000-pound aircraft from 0 to 160 miles per hour in 2 seconds. When the ship is moving at high speed through rough seas, maintaining proper steam pressure while compensating for deck motion requires split-second timing and nerves of steel. The navigation team, plotting survival at 35 miles per hour. Behind every successful high-speed heavy weather transit is a navigation team that's essentially fortune-telling with mathematics. These sailors use weather data, wave models, and real-time observations to plot courses that keep the ship moving fast while avoiding the worst wave action. Quartermaster First Class Jackson, who navigated carriers through 3 major storms, explains their method. We're constantly updating our route based on wave height forecasts, wind direction, and mission requirements. Sometimes, the safest course adds 200 miles to the journey, but at 30 knots, that's only 7 extra hours versus losing the ship. The navigation team works with meteorologists who provide updates every 30 minutes during heavy weather operations. They're looking for wave windows, brief periods when wave height drops just enough to allow high-speed transit through dangerous areas. But here's the catch. Weather predictions become less accurate the further ahead you look. At high speed, the ship covers so much distance that weather conditions can change completely in just a few hours. The navigation team must constantly recalculate their route, sometimes making major course changes with just minutes' notice. Communication heroes, coordinating chaos at full speed. When a carrier is racing through deadly waves, communication becomes a matter of life and death. The radio operators and signalmen must maintain contact with aircraft, escort ships, and command headquarters while dealing with equipment that's being shaken apart by wave impacts. Radioman Second Class Parker served on the USS Eisenhower during Hurricane Sandy operations in 2012. He describes the challenge. We were doing 25 knots through 35-foot seas to reach our launch position on time. Every big wave hit would knock out different radio systems. We had backup systems for our backup systems, and sometimes we needed all of them. High-frequency radio waves bounce off the ionosphere differently during storms, making long-range communication nearly impossible. The communication teams use multiple frequency bands, satellite links, and even flashing light signals to maintain contact when electronic systems fail. The most critical communications happen during flight operations. Air traffic controllers must guide returning aircraft to the carrier while the ship maneuvers at high speed through dangerous waves. They're literally talking pilots through a moving target approach while dealing with radio interference from the storm itself. Damage control. When things go wrong at speed. Despite all their skill and preparation, sometimes things go wrong. When wave damage occurs during high-speed operations, damage control teams must respond instantly while the ship continues racing through dangerous seas. Hull Technician Chief Morrison recalls a terrifying incident on the USS Theodore Roosevelt in 2008. We took a massive wave over the bow that buckled several deck plates and flooded 2 compartments, but we were on a mission timeline, so we couldn't stop. My team had to make emergency repairs while the ship kept pounding through 40-foot seas at 28 knots. Damage control teams train constantly for these scenarios. They practice welding, pumping water, and shore up damaged structures while being thrown around by violent ship motion. It's like trying to perform surgery during an earthquake, except the stakes are thousands of lives and a billion-dollar warship. The most dangerous damage control situations involve the flight deck. When high-speed wave impacts damaged catapults or arresting gear, repair teams must work in the open while aircraft operations continue around them. They're exposed to spray from 60-foot waves while handling equipment that could crush them in seconds. Medical teams, treating injuries in a liquid earthquake. Medical teams face unique challenges during high-speed, heavy weather operations. Dr. Patricia Hayes, former ship surgeon on the USS Nimitz, describes treating patients while the ship pounds through massive waves. Imagine trying to perform surgery while standing in the back of a speeding pickup truck driving through a construction zone. That's what it's like treating serious injuries during heavy weather operations. The most common injuries during high-speed rough weather are fractures and head injuries from crew members being thrown against equipment. Medical teams have developed special techniques for immobilizing patients when the ship is moving violently through heavy seas. Emergency surgeries become life-or-death challenges when performed at high speed through dangerous waves. Surgical teams use special restraints and stabilization equipment, but ultimately, they depend on their skill and experience to save lives under impossible conditions. The ultimate test: real combat speed in monster waves. The true test of these crews comes when they must maintain combat speed through conditions that would force civilian ships to seek shelter. During the 1991 Gulf War, the USS Midway maintained 30 knots through 25-foot seas while conducting round-the-clock combat operations. Captain James Johnson, who commanded the Midway during that deployment, explains the pressure. "We had pilots in the air who needed to land, combat missions to launch, and a schedule to maintain. The weather didn't care about our mission, but our crew knew how to make it work." The flight deck crew launched and recovered over 120 aircraft in conditions that normally would shut down all flight operations. They did it by perfectly timing each operation with the ship's motion through the waves, using techniques that take years to master. Aircraft approached for landing, while the carrier raced through towering waves at full speed. Pilots had to time their touchdown for the exact moment when the deck motion would be in their favor. Miss that timing by even half a second, and the result could be catastrophic. Technology that saves lives at high speed. Modern carriers are equipped with systems specifically designed for high-speed, heavy weather operations. The improved Fresnel lens optical landing system automatically compensates for deck motion, giving pilots a stable visual reference even when the ship is being pounded by massive waves. Advanced weather routing systems help navigation teams find the safest high-speed paths through dangerous weather. These computers can process thousands of weather data points and predict wave conditions hours in advance, allowing crews to maintain mission speed while avoiding the worst conditions. The newest innovation is wave prediction technology developed at MIT. This system can predict dangerous rogue waves 2 to 3 minutes before they hit, giving high-speed carriers just enough warning to adjust course or speed to minimize impact. Training, preparing for the impossible. Every aircraft carrier crew trains extensively for high-speed, heavy-weather operations using some of the most advanced simulators in the world. These systems can reproduce the exact conditions of racing through 60-foot waves while conducting flight operations. The training starts with individual specialties, but builds to full team coordination. Bridge teams practice high-speed wave navigation. Flight deck crews drill aircraft handling in simulated rough seas, and damage control teams learn to make repairs, while the ship moves violently through dangerous waters. Master Chief Peterson, who runs heavy weather training at the Naval War College, explains the philosophy. We train our crews to operate at 100% capability in conditions where most ships would be fighting just to survive. That's what makes American aircraft carriers the most capable warships in the world. Lessons from near disasters. Not every high-speed, heavy weather encounter ends successfully. The Navy has learned valuable lessons from close calls that nearly resulted in disaster. In 1985, the USS America was conducting high-speed flight operations in rough seas off Norway when a massive wave nearly swept several aircraft over the side. The incident led to new procedures for securing aircraft during high-speed, heavy weather operations. Today, every aircraft on deck is secured with multiple tie-downs, rated to withstand forces far beyond what normal operations would require. Another close call occurred in 2003 when the USS Carl Vinson encountered a rogue wave while traveling at 32 knots in the Pacific. The wave was estimated at 75 feet tall and struck the ship's port bow, flooding several compartments and causing significant damage. The crew's quick response and damage control skills prevented what could have been a catastrophic loss. The human cost of high-speed operations. Operating at high speed through dangerous waves takes a tremendous toll on aircraft carrier crews. The constant motion causes fatigue that affects decision-making and reaction times. Sleep becomes nearly impossible when the ship is being pounded by massive waves every few seconds. Medical studies show that crew performance degrades significantly after just 12 hours of high-speed, heavy-weather operations. Yet these sailors often endure days of these conditions while maintaining full operational capability. The mental stress is equally challenging, knowing that one mistake could result in the loss of aircraft, crew members, or even the entire ship creates pressure that few people can imagine. These sailors carry that responsibility every single day in conditions that would terrify most people. Future technology, making the impossible safer. The Navy is developing new technologies to make high-speed, heavy weather operations even safer. Advanced hull designs will allow future carriers to maintain higher speeds through rough seas with less stress on the ship and crew. New stabilization systems will reduce ship motion by up to 50%, making flight operations safer and reducing crew fatigue during extended high-speed transits. Artificial intelligence systems will help predict optimal speed and heading combinations for any given wave condition. Perhaps most importantly, new training systems will allow crews to practice these dangerous operations in complete safety. Virtual reality simulators will reproduce the exact conditions of specific historical heavy weather encounters, letting current crews learn from past experiences without risking lives. The unsung heroes of high-speed heavy weather. While pilots and officers often get the attention, the real heroes of high-speed heavy weather operations are the enlisted sailors who keep these ships running. The mess specialists who serve hot meals when the ship is pitching 30 degrees, the postal clerks who sort mail while being thrown around their workspace, the storekeepers who maintain inventory when everything is trying to break loose. These dedicated professionals understand that their seemingly routine jobs become critical to crew morale and ship operations during extended, high-speed, heavy weather transits. A hot meal and a letter from home can make the difference between a crew that's ready to fight and one that's demoralized by days of brutal conditions. Their contribution to mission success is just as important as the bridge team navigating through deadly waves or the flight deck crew launching aircraft in impossible conditions. Every successful, high-speed, heavy weather operation depends on hundreds of individual sailors doing their jobs perfectly under the worst possible circumstances. Conclusion: Masters of Speed and Sea. The next time you see an aircraft carrier in the news, remember what you've learned about these incredible crews. They don't just face giant waves, they face them at full speed while conducting the most dangerous aviation operations in the world. They maintain mission capability in conditions that would force other ships to seek shelter. From the bridge team making split-second navigation decisions to the nuclear operators maintaining full power in the engine room, every crew member plays a vital role in these death-defying operations. Their skill, courage, and teamwork allow America to project power anywhere in the world, regardless of weather conditions. These sailors prove every day that American ingenuity, training, and determination can overcome any challenge. When our nation needs rapid response to a crisis, these crews are ready to race through the worst weather nature can produce to get there in time. The fact that no American aircraft carrier has ever been lost to heavy weather is a testament to the incredible men and women who serve aboard these ships. They've mastered the impossible art of high-speed, heavy weather operations, and they do it with a level of professionalism that makes every American proud. Their service protects our freedom and demonstrates America's commitment to defending liberty around the world, no matter what obstacles stand in the way. That's something worth celebrating and supporting. If you learned something new about these amazing sailors and their incredible capabilities, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about the brave men and women who defend our nation every single day.